just going on our morning 5k walk.
That's right, since lockdown. Actually, it's meant that we've been able to explore this area that we live in, which we never did before lockdown.
So nice.
And it's so
we
nice
actually
around
know
here.
where we live, which is
It's
good.
great. And we've got a lot of new spots to check out once we can go to restaurants and cafes and everything.
It's so hard to keep you in the frame because you're so much taller than me.
I struggle.
So far away.
This is the tree, this is the tree. What is this?
I don't know, where's the other one?
I feel like that tree there wasn't that big before, we couldn't see the whole thing. Genius.
Genius. What do you say? Genius.
Yeah. Back from our 5 kilometre walk, we got our beautiful croissants here, an almond and just a plain. And
So good.
yeah, and although I don't drink coffee, I hear that is one of the best coffees ever.
Like the best. Every time it's good.
And yeah, I mean, we were just talking about on the way back, if we had never gone into lockdown, potentially we would have never tried this place.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because we had our set place, and like, you know, the other place is good.
And it's
But
good for good. It's really good for food.
Yeah, good for food, but the coffee's a bit hit and miss. It depends on who's on the barista of the day.
Yeah.
But like this place, every time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm so happy that we got the chance to find it.
Yeah, and I mean, as well, was it the first time when you were like, oh, the pastries look really good?
Yes.
And I just went and got it that first time?
Yeah, it was the first time.
Yeah, and literally, like, the best croissants I've had in
Like
Australia.
literally as if we're in France.
Yeah.
It's an Italian cafe, but it's like we're in France.
It's so good.
And that's the first time you've had an almond croissant, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't really remember. I've never tasted one as good as this. Like that, the stuffing, it's like a bit more dense and
You have to.
really
The
sweet
tip
and
with
nice.
almond croissants though is that you have to warm them up.
Yes.
Like they
And
have to be heated.
we've been sitting here for a little while, so I'm very worried that they're now not that warm.
Yeah, I think it might be cold.
Stone cold. Okay, well, I'm gonna dig in.
Yeah.
And this is, one of the little luxuries we get.
I
from
love
our
like
setup.
the little indulgences
Yeah, indulgences. I think that's the word. Yeah.
that we like incorporate into our life. Like
Yeah.
this is so little, but it literally makes me feel like we are
Yeah.
king and queen.
Oh.
And even
Wow.
like, you know, these are frozen blueberries, which are cheaper than buying normal blueberries. And we do buy normal blueberries, but you know, we're still getting the luxury of a blueberry, but
Yeah. And
at a cheaper price.
exactly. For what we normally use these ones for, the frozen ones are actually better.
Yeah, they
so
are.
putting it on like a wheat bix, yeah, or oats, or on some pancakes or
The
whatever.
chia seed pudding,
Oh,
so
don't even get me
good.
started. Chia seed pudding
So
is
good.
so yum.
I think like food is probably our favorite topic other than finance. Do you
Yeah,
think? I
yeah.
think we probably talk about food equally as much as we talk about like our personal.
And the funny thing is, whenever we talk about increased income, the first thing is like, oh, I can't wait till we can just go out to eat all the time.
Yeah. So
It's-
funny.
It's so woven into our lives and our thoughts. Like,
We're like obsessed. But I am pretty happy with the amount of times like we do go out to eat. Like middle of the week this week we got takeaway
yeah,
and like had like a little
a little
cards and wine on the balcony and
evening. Yeah, that was good. It was really warm, starting to come into spring, which is so good.
I think like trying to like do things that are cheap that make you feel rich. Like I think that that's such a life hack.
Oh, seriously. And on top of that, the way that we've been able to incorporate it into like a zero sum budget, that makes it like 10 times better, because
So
not
much
only does it end up happening anyway, regardless of which one you do, because everyone needs a sustainable life where you can enjoy something. So regardless of what type of budgeting strategy you have, it's going to come in somehow. But the difference is when you incorporate it into a zero-sum budget, there's like no sort of guilt attached to it. Whereas if you don't,
There's always the option.
Yeah, in your head, you're like, oh, well, if I do this, then I can't do that. And then you
There's
have that.
always the like, well, I could just save this money. Like I could we could put this, instead of buying food last night, we could have invested that, I don't know, $27.80 or however much it was.
Yeah.
And so you're always thinking about it, but with a zero-sum budget for us, it just allows us to be like, that money's already out. We know we're already investing, saving, doing everything that we can. And so this money is intentionally for us to spend quality time together and enjoy life.
And I mean, I think that's the key to that budget, is having, like, it just takes a little bit of homework on your own part to figure out exactly what expenses are ongoing, which are irregular, and incorporating or having a sort of designated plan for everything.
Yeah.
You know, so that if any expense comes up, there's no, oh, okay, you have to do all this math in your head. Okay, when did I get paid last? What's coming up? All of that. It's just sort of, it fits into a category that we've already preset.
Yeah.
And it ties in actually to one of the latest Instagram posts you had about decision fatigue.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Like, there's so much goes into making decisions about money and where you spend. And if you can take that decision out of it, or you make the decision beforehand, then each day, it's sort of, any expense that comes up goes onto autopilot, and is automatically already accounted for.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite thing about our budget system.
Yeah.
And I don't really like calling it a budget because it seems so like a budget, so like associated with restriction.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and
I definitely
even like a zero-based budget, like everyone's like, that's so regimented and structured, and like I find it that in practice is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it gives us so much freedom, and to like, in terms of how much like mental pressure it takes off you with that whole, what you were just talking about with the decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Like, because we think about it once when we set up our budget, and that takes like an hour or 2 hours, and then
You mean the first time?
the first time
Yeah.
we're planning it all out, and we like are assigning everything, like every bit of money to a label, and then it's 5 minutes every pay period.
Yeah.
Like maximum, where you're just transferring money into the different accounts, and then that's it. That's all we have to do, and never have to think about it again. It's so like liberating.
Sorry. I can't help it. It's still a little bit warm in the middle. It's so
okay,
nice.
I've got to have something.
Yeah. But yes, no, it's so liberating, and it just comes like it's finances are tied so tightly into everything in our life. And so when you have security or peace of mind, or even just like simplicity in finances, and not having to worry about it or think about it constantly, because it is going on constantly. Like anytime you're working, basically, at the end of the day, you're doing that to earn money. And then anything you do after that usually has some sort of monetary impact. So if you can sort of take away a lot of the decisions you have to make, then your brain is freed up to, if you are going back into work, to make like bigger, more important decisions with a clearer mind. Or if you're in the opposite state where you're like enjoying family, you don't have to worry or think about anything like that. You can just be fully in the moment.
Exactly, and that's our whole goal, to be able to be present with our family.
Yeah.
And to have unlimited like mental resources
food,
for that.
Right?
Yeah. Well, obviously the food comes first.
The food comes
then
first.
The family.
Then the family. Yeah. No, but on a serious note, yes, it's all about options and flexibility and food.
They all start with F. Oh no, options doesn't. I'm just stuck on the food.
Yeah, nice. It really helps that we sort of, as a couple, being on the same page is like so helpful. Like, you know,
incredibly so.
People, I don't know to what degree it's common knowledge, but the majority of marriages or relationships, generally I would say, end due to some sort of money dispute, money fight, or money problem. So
there's studies show there's 4 main things that couples need to agree on in order to have like a
statistical
successful relationship.
Yeah.
What are they? Money,
in-laws, kids, and religion.
Yeah,
okay. Those are the 4.
Your faith. Which we, from a very early stage in our relationship, like worked out how to deal with all of those.
Yeah.
I think we were so lucky, even way before we were even engaged, we were talking about those things.
And it wasn't even that conscious of a thought, really.
No.
It just sort of just came up because they were like big things in our life. Like, obviously money comes up for me a lot because I studied finance and I do find it really interesting.
And I'm just obsessed with it.
And now, you're obsessed with it. So we would just sort of...
in a good, healthy way, I would say. I'm obsessed with learning about it. I'm not obsessed with having money.
Yeah. Good distinction. Then kids came up as well because I was, as we started dating, getting introduced to your...
huge family.
Yeah, huge family. But then not only that, but all of the families in your community from the schools and whatnot have even bigger families. And so we, were always discussing that. And then religion as well. I was sort of in the process of discovering what I believed, and I was really interested in watching debates and things about it all.
You watch so many of those philosophical, I can never say that word.
Yeah, that's good.
Theory debates.
That was interesting. I mean, it still is interesting, but there's just, I think as well, there were a lot of big, large-scale debates going on when we first started dating, live ones, which were 2 hours long each, and then they had multiple series, which were great opportunities to learn about it. But now, because of COVID, it's just, they've sort of died down a little bit, and so has my avid watching. But if they did come back, I still find it super interesting. Yeah, super interesting.
And then what was the other one? Oh, in-laws. I mean, family has always been so super important to both of us.
Yeah.
So.
And with my family living in a different state, that was sort of because, and I like to go back and visit them a lot, fairly often. Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah. It sort of just came.
When we say a lot, it's multiple times a year.
Yeah. Probably
every few months.
Once every 3 months at the longest. Yeah. Which
I think is a lot for people going interstate.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel traveling interstate always seems a harder thing than what it is. But
especially when I first moved to New South Wales, to Sydney, I wasn't flying back and forth, and so that's a huge...
Oh, you were driving?
Yeah, I did quite a few drives before I started flying.
I assume you would have flown a lot.
No, not in the beginning, because not only was it cheaper, but my grandma and pop living pretty much halfway, so it was a good excuse to go see them and then keep going.
Oh, I love thinking about the first time I went to your grandma and pop's farm.
When was that?
It was when I had a front fringe.
Oh yeah, that's how we describe time periods when your different hairstyles were.
So, I remember you talking about, that was one of the first things we talked about as well, because this leads into what we were talking about with family. You were always talking about how your dream was to live on a farm, have a lot of, not necessarily an animal farm, but
or necessarily agriculture.
Yeah, no, more just property. You just called it a farm. You just called it the farm because it was your grandma and pop's place, and that's what you grew up calling it. But and you always talk about how you wanted to be on a nice big property and have lots of time to explore it and develop it into our own little place and spend time with the kids.
Not develop it property develop it.
Yeah, no.
Not like that.
No, but
plant trees and make walking tracks and stuff. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you were so clear on your dreams. I think that was something that was really helpful for us. We weren't afraid to talk about these big things from the beginning because it was so clear. Like what you wanted was so clear in some things, and for me, what I wanted was so clear in some things. And we just didn't we were never afraid to talk about it.
And
actually, not true. One time at the very beginning, I was afraid to talk about it, and one of our friends from uni, who I wasn't even close with at the time, now we're really close, but I was telling her, I was so overwhelmed by it, and I was telling her, I was like, I don't know what to do. We weren't even properly dating yet at this point. And she was like, you should just talk to him about it. And I was like, oh.
Didn't do that.
Yeah, okay, maybe I should. And she said, Connor is really understanding and empathetic, and he's a listener, so he will take it well. And then I did.
Say that?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. And then I did, and it worked out really good.
Yeah, it did. The rest is history.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, the first time you have to really sit down and think about your future or what it is that you want, it can be scary. Yeah. And some people have it easier than others. I honestly think that it wasn't super hard for me to figure out exactly what it is that I wanted.
Yeah, I think you're very rare in knowing exactly how you wanted your life to be. Not everyone has that.
Yeah. So I definitely acknowledge that advantage. But for people who do find it a little bit more difficult, I would more than anything recommend that you just try and sit down and think about it. More
than even getting your finances on track.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right.
More than literally anything else. If you can just spend a little bit of time figuring out what it is that you want in life. It doesn't have to be I want this career and I want to live in this place. It doesn't have to be that specific. It's just how do you want your life to flow? I think it's more about the flow of your life.
And that also is a good segue to...
I love a good segue.
Yeah, great. A good segue to the first sort of conversation that we had. One of the first conversations that we had when we were going to the beach about the ideal day.
Yes, my favorite.
Yeah, it's so good.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you know that this actually has a technical name?
What?
When I was researching habits,
this exercise?
This exercise, it's a university level study plan that has a full structure to it.
Wow.
Yeah, you've just taken one little last part of it.
Okay.
I'll tell you what it is after you explain what it is.
Okay. So, the thing that I sort of came up with, and I don't think I came up with this. I must have heard it somewhere, but I cannot remember for the life of me where it came from. And I talk about it to everyone. So if someone knows, please let us know. I mean, maybe
it's probably the thing I'm talking about.
Yes, but I don't know whether I heard it directly from that or someone else was talking about it. Yeah, that's fine. But basically, what you do is imagine today's date, today. In and of itself, so whatever it is, the day for you. For us, is it the 24th today?
24th was yesterday.
Which
25th just let today? Fly by. 24th of my favourite month.
I know, that's
other than May, but anyway.
Yeah. So, the 24th, 25th for us, whatever it is for you. So the 25th of September, 2026. So we'll do 5 years, but you can choose what you want.
I think 5 years is a good amount of time because it gives you enough time to be I could be somewhere amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's also it goes back to what people say as well is you overestimate what you can do in a year, but underestimate what you can do in 5 years, and obviously that would continue on to 10 years, but 10 years is a little bit too far into the future. Yeah. So I think 5 is a sort of sweet spot. It's a good. So. Yeah, so it's the 25th of September, whatever day it is for you, 2026. And so for this to work really well, I like to assume that it is, and I don't know exactly what the day will be, but I like to assume that it's a weekday. So it's your normal life. And basically, you need to describe in detail what it is that your life looks like in terms of the actions that you take from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Now, just like Magella said, you don't have to be so specific that you're this is my specific role at this company and things like that. That can be too far. You don't even need to know exactly what profession you're doing, but the idea is to explain the general vibe or the general flow of your life.
With as much specificity as you can.
with as much specificity as you can. So if you do have an exact role, that's great. But if not, you just need to get the flow right. And so an example would be, you know, I wake up, the alarm goes off at 5:30, 6 o'clock.
I would naturally wake up because I've trained myself to wake up with the sun.
You have those automatic shades that open up.
Or for me, I think mine was like 5 years from now, I'll probably be waking up to a baby.
Yes.
Like that's probably what would be waking me up.
Yeah, it could be something like that. That's right. And then, so what? You get up. If there's a baby, you go and attend to the baby. If not, you're waking up. Is there like a dog near you? Are you laying next to someone? And then from there, like, what do you do for breakfast? Do you have breakfast at home? Do you go and do you get yourself ready first and then go and do something on the way?
Do you go and exercise and then have breakfast? Do you go and
exercise? Do you have a walk? Whatever it is, in that sort of detail.
Surfing.
And then when the workday starts, assuming it's a normal work week, like in an ideal world, are you at a level where you don't need to work every day? So instead of actually going to an office or going to your home office or going to a job site or whatever, you're getting ready to go and visit family or to, I don't know, to go to the beach or whatever.
Or I think like when you described yours back then, that was a few years ago now, it was like, you said, I'll head off to a cafe for one of my work meetings.
Yeah.
But like, you know, that's such a like nice chill way to start the day. Like going to a cafe for a work meeting, and then I'll come back and I'll meet, you know, my significant other. But of course, I just inserted myself here.
Yeah. And I was inserting you in my mind. Yeah.
So, you know, I go and have lunch, and they'll probably have a little baby, and then we'll have lunch together, and then I'll go back to work. And I think at the time you actually said, I'll go and my meeting will be as like a venture capitalist or an angel investor or something. And you'll be like investing in people's businesses.
Yeah, that's what it was at the time. Yeah,
which is so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So
that's the kind of concept.
That's the kind of concept. Yeah.
Connor had a clear idea of what maybe the type of work he would do. I didn't, but I guess like preferably it was like I was working from home.
Yeah,
that was the preference.
Yeah.
And so from there, once you understand what you want to do with your day, that gives you like the flow that we were talking about and the vibe.
That's
of the
right.
Day.
Yeah, and it's like you'll start if you get really clear on this. Obviously, it might take a few times and trial and error to get it exactly right. But if you go through it in detail and start building an ideal day that you can get really clear on, then you basically, if you're really confident that you can get there, you'll start subconsciously moving towards that. Anything, you'll have that in the back of your mind, and while you won't have sat down and go, okay, well, this is where I am, this is where I want to be, what are the exact steps, and do all this research into it, you'll be more exposed to opportunities, and it'll feel as though these are automatically happening.
Yes.
But it's your mind. It's sort of like it goes back to how I like to imagine it is, you know, when for example, you buy a new device, or your parents get a new car, or you get a new car, whatever it is, you start seeing that car or that thing so everywhere. Much more because your brain is now, whatever, for some reason, attuned to it. Yeah. And before, you just didn't even pay attention. But I mean, there isn't more of that item actually around. It's just you're noticing it more.
Yes.
So that's the same thing that happens with opportunities that'll push you towards it. So it'll feel as though once you've got this clear, that things are just coming to you and like feels almost impossible.
But it's actually that your brain is looking out for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're not going. You don't have to be like, okay, on the lookout at all times. But
your brain is subconsciously doing that.
Exactly. If you know in your mind that that's where you want to go and you're really clear on it, then when a colleague mentions an opportunity for something that would move you in that direction, or something comes through in an email or whatever it is, then you're going to be more receptive to it.
Or like for us, maybe a good example is like we both wanted to be married. And so when we were at the very beginning of our relationship, for both of us, we were looking at it, even though we were so young, we were looking at it going, is this someone that I want to be married to? And so the way you evaluate your life's choices change as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't really put two and two together and be like, that's because in 5 years I want to be married. It was just like, is sort of like I knew that to take this a little bit more seriously, you know, because like that aligns with where I'm heading, and that's sort of like a subconscious thing that you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like at the end of the day, the fact that we had both gone through this type of thought experiment on our own meant that when we came together, we both had our independent ideas about what we wanted our life to be, and we came in more like a partnership. As opposed to... Because
we could see, like, I could look at your ideal day and you could look at mine, and we were like, these match up really nicely.
Yeah, and I mean, that is obviously a huge benefit, and I think there are sort of 3 ways it could have gone. Like, we've both discussed it and our ideas both align, or probably the next best but doesn't have the happy ending is we've both discussed it but they don't align, and then that's when you would most likely have a split. But the other option is either one of them has thought about it and the other one hasn't, or neither of them have, and then they sort of get stuck in this cycle of like, where you're just sort of coasting through and you're not doing things that are going to help you or help the other person.
You're not living intentionally.
Yeah.
Because you can't live intentionally unless you know what you're intending towards.
Yeah. You don't have intentions. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, if there would be any advice that we could pass on, it would be just to, and I know it sounds really cliche, but I hope it's with the context of the conversation before. It helps give it a bit more substance. But understanding yourself and what it is that you want, and at least thinking about it and using that thought experiment as one way to figure it out.
Oh, which by the way, it's called an Odyssey plan.
Oh yeah, you never... An Odyssey plan.
An Odyssey plan, and there's 3 parts, and so you come up with 2 plans with like 2 different options, like if I did career A or career B or whatever. And then the third one is like your ideal, which is what we just went through.
Yeah.
And then so it shows you that you have options, as well as you can match up like, okay, what are the things that were consistent in all 3 plans?
Yes. You did that in the video, but you didn't say it was an Odyssey plan.
Yeah, I think I cut that part out because I think I said it a bit.
I get you.
Yeah, but I should have left it in, but anyway,
That's alright. Okay.